New chapter for TNT. We're red, ready, and responsible. Vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
Man is it in your hand? PNM is the plan. Red and ready, hold it steady. PNM, we are one. PNM, we are the PNM.
Good evening, everyone. I want to be able to say all protocols observed, but I won't. Our political leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, give him a round of applause. My other two candidates, Hans Devines in Diego Martin West, Simon de Nobrega in Diego Martin Central, our first female mayor of the borough of Diego Martin, my cabinet colleague, Kazim Hussain, and everybody else. I was looking at the little demonstration in front there. I was counting the number of them. And I said, you know, I have 5 opponents, believe it or not. All People Party, Patriotic Front, NTA, MND, and PEP. And I figure, the bunch of people that are in front there, there is more votes and all of them will get put together. The last time that happened, I think, was with Dr. Rowley, I remember. Years ago, many years ago, he had 5 or 6 opponents as well. And I think when they add up all the votes they got, I don't think they reach 1,000. So that's the kind of target I go in at. The 5 of them, let me see if they can reach 1,000 in aggregate. Some of them might get 1 vote. It's a joke. But we need to demonstrate the power of Diego Martin. Since 1991, the 3 Diego Martin seats have been a powerhouse in the PNM. We have never lost. We have never lost. Where the PNM may have slipped and recovered in other areas in the east, in the south, and so on, we have never lost in the 3 Diego Martin seats. So don't mind, there's a set of jokers. I call the people coming against me a string band. I've been walking, I didn't do, how much steps you do, Hans? I feel you. I had a few steps there, but I walk it out, that's 400 miles. But anyway, I've been walking. I haven't seen my 5 opponents, I can't find them. They are nowhere to be found. So I decided to check the voters list. You know, 3 of them don't live in Diego Martin Northeast and not registered in Diego Martin Northeast, so they can't vote for themselves. So I have had a little challenge. I've had a challenge motivating my people because they say, you win already. But we must not be like that. We in Diego Martin, we have to come out and maximize our vote. Show them who is boss in Diego Martin. It's not just it's going to be a clean sweep. That is a foregone conclusion. We're going to wipe the floor with them. They will all lose a deposit. All of them. But we must aim to maximize our votes. I expect at least 10,000 votes from each one of my candidates, and I'm aiming for that as well. That's how much I got in 2020. But tonight, I want to talk to you about some of the nonsense that is outside there in the public domain. The nonsense that you see in the newspapers. The nonsense that you read on, that you hear on the radio. Absolute nonsense. There have some people, I don't know if they call themselves analysts and expert, or the media decide they're analysts and expert. I don't know who come up with that. But people who know nothing about nothing, who have done nothing, who have never achieved anything, who stand for nothing. Every day you open up the papers and this analyst talking about that and this expert talking about that. Rubbish. Half of them are false papers. Half of them. Half of them buy the degree from some diploma mill. Half of them. Doctor this and doctor that. A joke, but it's deliberate. Because they know that these people, some of them are former UNC MPs. Some of them write UNC manifesto. Some of them working right now for the UNC. They know that these people are not neutral, they're not impartial, they are liars. And I want to talk to you about a lie that is going out there. Somebody is circulating some rubbish about how under the PNM, Trinidad and Tobago has been declared by the IMF to be the 7th worst performing economy in the world. Some UNC idiot said that on a platform. And he quotes some IMF publication. Do we go on for the publication? It's about 100 pages. We read every single page. We read every single line. We can't find it. It's not there. So the liar who said that, say he get it from a partner in the university. And he don't want to call his name. They're going to go victimize him. We know who the liar in the university is already, anyhow. All of them just lie. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the same publication that they say that we are the worst performing economy, the 7th worst, you know what it say? Trinidad and Tobago, this is the 2024 IMF Article 4 concluding statement. Trinidad and Tobago is in the midst of a sustained economic recovery. That's what it says. That's what it says. With low inflation and good fiscal balance, there's nothing in there about the worst performing economy. We are worse than Haiti. We're worse than Sudan. We're worse than Ukraine. You see the foolishness people that talk? The nonsense that talk? In the Caribbean, half the Caribbean in IMF program, half of them, not Trinidad and Tobago. And we have spent the last 9.5 years making sure that Trinidad and Tobago does not find itself in an IMF program. Because you know what will happen? You know what will happen? The first thing the IMF will say is devalue the currency. The first thing. In fact, the first meeting I had with the IMF in 2016, when they came for the consultation, the first thing they tell me is devalue the dollar. First thing. I say, no. They come back the next year. First thing they tell me is devalue the dollar. I say, no. They come back the next year, they say devalue. I say, look, you see you? And I went to Washington, and I demanded that they change the mission chief, the IMF mission chief. I'm fed up with this nonsense. Every time they come, devalue the dollar. They quarrel with me, you know. They say we don't do that. I say, well, stay there, you know. Until you change that person, we wouldn't be talking. So, eventually, they changed the IMF mission chief, and we began to get responsible, reliable people. But they still come with this devaluation thing. We have fought, not just them, we have fought people in the private sector. We have fought people in the media for the last 9.5 years. We have refused to devalue the dollar. You know why? You'd have heard the new Prime Minister, Stuart Young, speak about the calculations they did when they worked out all these measures the UNC want to do. Cut that tax, cut this tax, reduce this, reduce that, give away this, give away that. Work it out. They want to devalue the dollar to 15-1. Now let me tell you what will happen then. If you're a public servant, you're earning $10,000 a month. I'm just using an example. They give you the 10%. You're going to 11,000. They devalue the dollar down to 15-1. You know what you could buy with that 11,000? Half of what you could have buy with the 10,000. You just cut your purchasing power by 45%. That is what they're doing. So we have resisted. No matter what advice we get, no matter what they tell us, we know what will happen when we devalue the dollar. And we have defended our dollar. We have protected our dollar because the first thing that will happen is inflation. Food prices will go through the roof. Everything imported into Trinidad and Tobago, which is a lot, price will double. Everything will become more expensive. You will eat grass if we devalue the dollar. And that is what you have to look out for with the other side. Because I wouldn't use any polite language. They come up with some highfalutin talk about how they will adjust the dirty managed flow. That is old talk. Right now, we allow the dollar to move within a narrow band from about 6.7-1 to about 6.8 to 1, all inside of there. It's called a managed float, so we manage it. So we don't allow the dollar to go past 6.8. We don't allow it to pass that. 6.79, 6.77, 6.75, that is what we do. That's what the PNM does. But it ain't crossing 6.8. That is called a managed float. The leader of the UNC has decided to do away with that. They said they will scrap that and let the dollar find its own level. 15 to 1. So one thing you could be sure of, when you elect the next PNM government on April 28th, we ain't devaluing the dollar. We will continue to protect it and defend it for the duration of our term in government. We ain't doing that stupidness. And the other thing I want to tell you is ignore the nonsense in the papers. I saw some individual who made no impact when he was in government with us. No impact. Insignificant. Might even call him a non-entity. He on a UNC platform. Total waste of time, you're right. Insignificant non-entity of no political substance whatsoever. And I had to read the papers, I think it was today or yesterday. These same analysts, the ones with the false papers and things. Oh, that will make a big impact on the election. That time making no impact. In fact, UNC might lose votes. But let me tell you how we dealt with the problem when we came in. I think it was the mayor referred to the fact that when we came in 2015, we had enough money in the treasury to last for 3 days. And I have to repeat this story. When I got into finance, within a short period of time, the then governor of the central bank came to see me. And he said, you have enough money to last for 3 days. I said, what? He said, yes, the overdraft is at 99%. I said, yeah. He said, I'm going to turn off the tap. I said, tap? What do you mean by that? He said, I'm going to stop honoring government checks. Oh, so if you see how we had to scramble. That was in September. If you see how we had to scramble. But we managed. We used a lot of innovation and ingenuity. And we managed to go and find the money. So we were able to pay every single public servant their salary in September of 2015. We came in on September 10th, I believe. And they tell us we have enough money to go to September 13th. And salary due at the end of the month. We paid everybody. Every monthly paid worker, every daily paid worker, everybody in all the RHAs, everybody in WASA, everybody in TNTech. We paid them all. And that wasn't all, you know. After we get through that crisis, we had to find our way through October, November. Not easy, you know. They spent out everything, you know. When they came into government in 2010, and I have to repeat this, the government's account at the central bank was in credit. $6 billion in credit. When they left, it was $10 billion in overdraft. They spent out $16 billion from the government account, from credit to debit. $16 billion. And when I look at how they got their money, because when you take a look at revenue in their time, they were happy and lucky, you know. They had an oil price of $95, $94, $97. That is what they had for their 5 years, you know. Sometimes over $100 a barrel of oil is what they had to enjoy for their 5 years. When you come in, it was $40. And by February 2016, it was $26. $26 a barrel. That's what we had to handle in 2016. While they were dealing with $100 oil. And I remember as well, those were difficult times. Those times were rough. We had to cut expenditure. Dr. Rowley went, addressed the nation, and asked every government ministry to reduce expenditure. I think it was by 7%. We had no choice. Let me read out some of the numbers for you so you could understand what we had to face when we come in. When they were in the government in 2014, their revenue, $58 billion. That is what they had. $58 billion. And they so thought that the good times would continue and they would be in government in 2016. When I came in, I had 2 weeks to write the 2016 budget. 2 weeks. So we had to use what the technocrats had prepared for the UNC government. We didn't have time. Their budget estimate for 2016 revenue was $60 billion. Because they were still living in dreams, living in the clouds. And misappropriating a lot of the money too. Let me tell you what happened. The thing dropped from $58 billion in 2014 down to $45 billion in 2016. That is when oil dropped to $26. Down to $36 billion in 2017. That was hard times, you know. You could imagine you're running a country with an appetite for expenditure around 62 billion because they spent $63 billion in 2014. So the country had an appetite for $63 billion of government expenditure. And they had $58 billion in revenue. So they had a deficit of about $5 billion. We come in, and within 2 years, we're facing revenue of $36 billion. That is $22 billion less, you know. $22 billion less. And the country still have an appetite for a $60 billion economy. And they gave us a gift. I heard a lie recently. You must vote for them because they are the only government that will pay back pay. And I need to talk about this back pay story. That's a real lie. When I go out walking, from time to time, I will meet a member of the PSA. In both with the back pay. I say, but your leader didn't sign the agreement. The agreement? I say, yes. The PSA had to sign the agreement first before you could get back pay. That is how teachers got back pay. That's how police officers got back pay. That is how prisons officers get back pay. That's how fire service get back pay. That's how the army get back pay. We paid out over $1 billion in back pay in December 2023. This PNM government. But I am talking now about 2016, 2017. UNC with the usual mad, reckless promises give public servants a 14% increase. They didn't pay no back pay, no. They give that as a gift to the incoming PNM government. And you know how much we had to pay? $6 billion in back pay. And we had to pay that in 2016 and 2017. And I'm showing the numbers. Revenue dropped from $58 to $36 billion. We lost $22 billion. But we still paid because this government makes good on its undertakings. We paid every cent of that $6 billion in back pay. Every single cent of that $6 billion. So this PNM government, we paid $6 billion, we paid $1 billion, we have paid over $7 billion in back pay. This PNM government, UNC ain't pay 1 cent in back pay. 1 cent. And now we are preparing to pay more back pay because not only did we offer the public sector unions 4% for a particular period, we just offered them a couple of months ago 5%. It's 9% that we have offered them. So I'm urging every member of the PSA, you need to deal with your leaders. They are holding back your back pay. Everybody else get back pay except public servants because you have union leaders that want you to suffer. But anyway, I assume that sooner or later they will come to their senses. So revenue dropped from 58 to 36 billion. Get up and get. We make all kind of changes. We change the oil tax system. Dr. Rowley and Mr. Young gone all about improving our revenue base and so on. So we start to climb back up. So in 2018, we went up to $42 billion. As we go forward now, we go to 2019, and we keep climbing up. COVID come. So we keep climbing, the revenue keep climbing, it keep climbing. We get up to $47 billion in 2019. So we climbed from 36 to 44 to 46, and we're going up. Things going good. We're building, recovering. COVID come. You know what COVID do? Drop us all the way back down below 36 billion, drop us down to $34 billion. So all the progress we made between 2017 and 2019, COVID mashed we up. And what happened? We used all kind of innovative measures. We changed the way you could access money from the Heritage Fund. We gone to the international agencies, we get loans. And we were able in 2020 and in 2021 to keep this country afloat. It's this PNM that saved this country during COVID. You see how much money I'm talking about? 58 billion under UNC. That's the amount of money they had to play with. We dropped down to 34 billion in 2020. It had one time oil go to zero. Oil gas price dropped from $4 under them to $1 under PNM. That's the kind of thing we had to deal with. But, believe it or not, don't listen to them on the damn nonsense. Look at the numbers. The numbers tell a story. We dropped down to 34 billion in 2020, but through a whole series of measures, we start to climb up again. 37 billion in 21, 54 billion in 22, 55 billion in 23. So we took revenue from 34 billion under COVID and up to 55 billion in 2023. We increased by 21 billion in just 3 years. We rescued this country. People don't understand the amount of work we had to do to build back from that disaster that was COVID. But we did it. Kept everybody whole. Paid public servants' salaries on time. Every month, everybody get their salary on time. So don't listen to them and their foolishness. The other thing they don't want to talk about is our tax measures. When we came in, the personal allowance was $60,000 a year, which meant that if you're earning $5,000 a month, or less, $5,000 a month or less, you pay no tax. We ain't leave it there, no. We look after the people at the lowest end of the income spectrum. We raise it to $6,000. We raise it to $7,000. We raise it to $7,500. Under this PNM, anybody earning $7,500 a month or less, your salary is tax-free. Under them, it was $5,000. We add $2,500. That is over $600 a month in the pockets of people earning $7,500 a month or less. We did that. We did a number of other things in terms of pensions. We recognize the plight of old people, elderly people. When we came in, there was something called a limit, a cap on pensions, $4,500. So if you're getting senior citizens grant or pension or old age pension, as they used to call it, of $3,500, you could only, if you're getting NIS of $3,000, you could only get a pension, old age pension, of $1,500. We met that so. And we recognize there are many people who can't survive, elderly people can't survive on $4,500 a month. So we kept increasing. We take it up to $5,000. We take it up to $5,500. And we take it up to where it is now, $6,000 a month. So you could get $3,000 in NIS and $3,000 in pension. That's under this PNM. We did that. Don't listen to them and their old talk. And we keep increasing the minimum wage as well. We've increased the minimum wage all the way up to $20.50. That is PNM performance, because we care about the people who are least able to look after themselves. So elderly people, people on minimum wage, we have systematically targeted them and helped them. Don't forget that. And let me tell you something. If you make the mistake and elect those clowns, I'm being very charitable, I could call them crooks. I could call them thieves, bandits, liars, cheats, immoral, unethical. I have a whole vocabulary there I could call them. But let's call them clowns. Clowns. Because you heard some disappointing news recently where some of the initiatives that we were making with Venezuela to get natural gas from Venezuela, because Trinidad and Tobago has been producing oil and gas for a very, very long time. We've been producing oil for 100 years. We are what they call an old oil and gas province. We're old. And the older you are, the harder it is to get oil and gas out of the ground. So our production has been going down, as happens in every other country in the world that has our history of being very mature and very old as an oil and gas province. So we saw the opportunity. Stuart Young, Dr. Rowley, saw the opportunity to get gas from our neighbor just across the Gulf of Paria. And they were very successful in getting the United States to give us a waiver on the various sanctions on Venezuela. But we heard some disappointing news recently that the new US president decided that done. I'm not giving up on that. I am sure with proper negotiation, that matter will be dealt with in due course. But it's a point I'm making to you. We ran this country with oil at $26 a barrel. We ran this country with gas at just over $1 MMBTU. We ran this country with a $20 billion hole in government revenue. And everybody got what they were entitled to. Every pensioner got their pension. Everybody on public assistance got their grants. Everybody on disability assistance got their grants. Every public servant, everybody in the public sector got their salary on time at the end of the month. And we did that with $26 oil. So I'm telling you, with what has happened there, with those Venezuela licenses, the only political party that could manage Trinidad and Tobago over the next 5 years is the People's National Movement. Because we have proven it. We proved it. We showed when we got that COVID shock how we build back the economy. We have the talent. We have the technology. We can do it. Them can do nothing. And that's why you have to believe the story, the message that they are going to devalue the dollar. That is the only way they could do the foolishness them talking about. They have no money for that. They could count just like we, you know. All of these documents that I am referring to here are public documents. Every time I did a national budget, I had to lay 10 documents on the table in the parliament, circulate to all the opposition, and those jokers up at the university. And they could read and spell just like everybody else. And they can see how difficult it was in those years when oil prices dropped to almost nothing, when gas price dropped to almost nothing. They know the money is not there. They know they cannot fulfill those promises. So they're just trying to fool you. They're just trying to trick you. And I ask you, the public, not just the voters in Diego Martin, because I know it will be a landslide. I know it will be a tidal wave. Dr. Rowley used to say the tidal wave begin in the west, but I think it will begin in the east this time. And we go wash through the whole borough of Diego Martin. We go wash Diego Martin. I know that. But that is not where the victory will be won or lost. I want you to talk to all your family and your friends and your associates in the battleground seats, because we have battleground seats. I went to one today. I went to launch a project to restore a post office in Sangre Grande, 125 years old, right in the heart of Sangre Grande. And I went deliberately, because that is a project which the Sangre Grande community will take intense pride in. I went there to give our candidate a boost, and I'm satisfied he got a boost from that ceremony that we had today in Grande. Grande is a battleground seat. La Joqueta Talparo is a battleground seat. St. Joseph is a battleground seat. Tunapuna is a battleground seat. San Fernando West is a battleground seat. Tobago is a battleground. And therefore, I want you to talk to your family, your friends, your associates. You must bring out every single PNM vote in the battleground seats, and that is how we will march on to victory. I remember a day, I think it was 1991. In that campaign, a lady came to our office. She was living in Tunapuna. But she found herself in Maraval. On election day, she had no transport. I jump in my car, I say, madam, come with me. I drive to Tunapuna, and I carry to the police station in Tunapuna to vote. You know why? Because I understood how important that was. So we cannot just rest on our laurels in Diego Martin, where we will mash them up. As I said, when I go on walkabouts, I can't see them. I'm sure, Hans, same thing with you. Same thing with you, Simon. You can't see them, you can't find them, you can't hear them. You don't know what's going on up here. Don't be fooled. That is not where the battle is. The battle is in the marginals. And I remember back in 2001, Eddie Hart calling me. He was then the candidate for the Tunapuna election. He called me. He said, Colm, I want help. I said, what do you want? He said, under pressure here, boy. They put in booths in front of all the polling stations. This is the other side. Eh? I said, no problem, man. Jump in my car, drive up, go on to the police station. Tell the police, pick up 2 police, go on. We take down every single one of them that night. And then I stayed with Eddie. I leave my home 6 o'clock in the morning in 2001. Gone to Tunapuna, work with Eddie whole day. By 2 o'clock, I say, Eddie, how you feeling? He said, I'm feeling good. I say, well, I gone. And I gone back now to Maraval, vote, and I win the seat by a margin of 7,000 votes. That is what happens in Diego Martin. But we have to help. And I feel I will find myself in one of those marginal seats on election day. I going up there to help them. But vote first, eh? All of that sending that message to vote first. Don't play with that, eh? Go and vote first before you try to help up there. But I want you to understand how difficult your life will be. How difficult Trinidad and Tobago's life will be. There are so many things the PNM has done over the years. Every single thing of substance in this country was done by the PNM. Free education introduced by Dr. Eric Williams. Government assistance for tuition expenses. Free tertiary education, university education, introduced under the Patrick Manning government. I had the privilege to be Minister of Tertiary Education at the time. The Chronic Disease Assistance Program, free medication, introduced under the Patrick Manning government. And again, I had the honor to be the Minister of Health. Find myself in the right place sometimes. But if you look at every single thing, every single major highway in this country, built by the PNM. Every single major institution, every single building of significance, built by the PNM. In the last 5 years, look at the number of hospitals that we have built. Point 14, Arima, Sangre Grande, Port of Spain. This is major hospitals I'm talking about, not health centers, not like that magnificent health center we have here in Diego Martin just across the road. That is small thing compared to the Arima Hospital, if any of you have ever been there. State of the art. If you have ever been to the Sangre Grande Hospital, I remember when I was Minister of Health, doctors were working out of 2 containers. Now you have a state of the art hospital in Sangre Grande. Yes, of course. 2 hospitals in Tobago built under the People's National Movement. 2. One in Roxborough, one in Signal Hill. 2. I mean, the amount of thing we do in Tobago. I don't have time for that. I will leave that to the senior Tobagonian amongst us, if he so desires, of course. But we have done so much in healthcare, it's extraordinary. I don't think there's any other country in the region. In fact, I know there's no other country in the Western Hemisphere, from Canada all the way down to Argentina, that provides the level of healthcare that we provide to our citizens, free of charge, in world-class, state-of-the-art facilities. And it's we, PNM, do that, not them. They always like to piggyback on everything we do, but them and do nothing You go and check their record. What have they ever done? What they ever do? I'm not hearing you. They're thief. That's what they have done. That's what they have done. But look at all the road infrastructure. Look at the Curep interchange, built at almost half the price them wanted to build it for. Look at the highway to Point Fortin. They couldn't finish it as we finished that. Yes, I know. But it's not just physical infrastructure. It's all sorts of other things that deal with the quality of life in Trinidad and Tobago. The 2 brand new fast ferries that ply the inter-island route from Tobago to Trinidad, state-of-the-art, world-class. Again, they have no country from Canada to Argentina that have 2 world-class ferries like that, running a trip like that. Highly subsidized, affordable. It's PNM do that. I could just go on and on and on, but I don't want to because I think Dr. Rowley wants to speak soon. But the fact of the matter is, you look at any public service in Trinidad and Tobago, any service delivered in Trinidad and Tobago, whatever it is, I take something as simple as old age pension, is PNM introduced that. Everything in this country that matters was conceptualized, inspired, created, implemented, and delivered by the People's National Movement. Every single thing. And we have demonstrated over the last 9.5 years, we've gone through some tough times. It wasn't easy. Sometimes I had to call Dr. Rowley. I say, I ain't sure I could pay salaries this month, you know. I'm sending you a note. We had to go and borrow some money. And of course, he would oblige. You all don't know these things. That happened. But 9.5 years of pressure to make sure that this country survived, thrived, and grew and developed. We did that. And we are the only political party with the capacity, the knowledge, the expertise, and the capability to do that. So, as we move forward, remember what the PNM has done. Recognize what the PNM can do. And make sure, as I told you, you talk to everybody you know in those seats I call out there, and make sure you drag them out of the house to vote for the People's National Movement. And then on April 28th, we will say, the PNM is great. I'll turn it around. The PNM is great. The PNM is great. And it has prevailed. Thank you.
This is a new chapter. Join us on the road to victory. On Saturday, April 19th, Tobago, meet us at the Goodwood Secondary School for the Big Red Rally. And Maruga, the People's National Movement, will be having a public meeting at St. Mary's Recreation Ground. We're red, ready, and responsible. Vote PNM. Great is the PNM.